the ceremony was presided over by a rabbi who has a small congregation somewhere in the valley. I forget the name of it. He's a very jovial guy, and I chatted with him for a while before it started. And he told me that he said, "Let me tell you this joke." I said, "Okay, I'm all for jokes." So he said, "There's this guy in Israel who's very religious, and he goes to the Western Wall every day to pray. And he's like set a Guinness record for the number of consecutive days he's gone to the wall to pray. So one day, a local journalist, decided he wanted to do a story about the guy. So he shows up and he's talking to the guy, and he says, "So what do you vary your requests in prayer, or what do you?" He says, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do." He said, "I've recently begun praying for peace." And the journalist said, "Well, what's been the response?" And the guy said, "It's like talking to a wall." And to me, I mean, the joke isn't that funny, but it is sort of a metaphor for what we're watching in Israel. Um, I was very struck, but not surprised, by the resumption of hostilities this week. And the reports this morning were that the IDF killed another 100 people, claiming that the Israelis provoked them or did something. And anyway, and then after that skirmish was over, both sides said they're going to adhere to the ceasefire. And I'm thinking, you know what? This is business as usual. And I think as long as there are these Hamas guys just lurking, maybe fewer in number, but they're passionate enough, this is just going to just be rinse and repeat. And I'm just wondering, this whole notion that, well, we got this big peace deal and we got the hostages out, and, our man in the White House was proclaiming he should get a Nobel Peace Prize because he got 20 hostages released. But I went back and checked. Do you know how many hostages Biden got out? 135. So, it's everything is Kafkaesque to me. And I just wanted to kind of go around and ask you all what you make of all this. And if you disagree with anything I said, please feel free to disagree. I don't take anything personally. But I'd like to know some of your thoughts about any of this stuff. Meryl, go ahead.
I'm having a hard time wondering what's going to happen from one day to the next, 1 hour to the next, so to speak. And what little news I try to listen to so that I'm not upset or more upset than I need to be, I wonder what's going to happen next. Who's going to be attacked next?
Yeah,
That's where I'm at, and I don't have an answer.
Joanne?
I think what I heard is that an Israeli soldier was killed. That's why Netanyahu went and bombed them again. And apparently the guy that the Palestinian that killed the Israeli soldier was not part of the Hamas. He's one of these splinter groups. And you're right. I mean, they've got to be all over the place and they'll just do what they want. And Netanyahu will just keep dropping bombs on them. But apparently now, once he did that, their ceasefire is back on again. And I also heard that President Trump told them, Netanyahu, if the Hamas doesn't behave, then Netanyahu can do whatever he wants. And, he will.
Yeah, I think that it's sort of a kabuki dance of Netanyahu and Trump being on the same page. I think Trump is desperate for some kind of peace, and I think Netanyahu has not wavered on his original battle aims. Was one, to get the hostages out, which they accomplished almost, but two, to eliminate every last Hamas fighter, which I think is an impossible task.
Right. I don't think that's going to happen. And in terms of Biden getting 100 and whatever hostages out, Trump is never going to give Biden credit for anything.
No,
You know,
no. Well, that's so obvious.
so, not
Biden
even
was the worst
he's
president.
talking about.
Yeah, Biden was the worst president in American history, according to Trump.
Mm.
I was also been very curious about, they've created this yellow line where Israel kind of maintains control on the eastern side of it, and the other side is open for business. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable, and I think they're trying to line up countries that would aid in the reconstruction of Gaza to some degree. But then I thought, wow, if they're gonna rehabilitate half or whatever that percentage of that east of the yellow line is, boy, that sure adds to um, the disunity and inequality among the Palestinian people. Forget Hamas for a minute, but just the average ordinary folks who may not have the wherewithal to live on the other side of the yellow line. That really that struck me, and I think that only adds to the tension and problems that will be encountered on the way forward. Sylvia, what do you think?
There's an article in, I think it was yesterday's paper, about the Israelis is saying that Trump is babysitting Netanyahu,
I saw that.
which I thought was a lovely phrase.
Yeah.
But Trump is saying that Netanyahu will do what he is told to do because Trump wants him or orders him to do it. And I think the two of them are butting heads over this. Part of the reason I think that the Israelis bombed Gaza was because Netanyahu wanted to show that he is in charge, not the guy in the White House. And he's going to continue to prove that it's Israel that's in charge and Israel that calls the shots. And Trump can say what he wants, but when it comes down to it, the Israelis are going to do what they want to do until Trump gets really ticked off and then says, you don't get any more from us for the moment. And then all of a sudden they'll be friends again. I also think that this reconstruction thing is an opportunity for Jared Kushner to make money.
I totally agree with you. I think once you introduce reconstruction real estate projects, I mean that's the raison d'etre of Trump and his organization. And you can just see all the planning I'm sure that's underway. Well, we'll build a hotel here and a casino there and all that. And you're right, as long as Jared Kushner is in the mix, I mean, it's hard not to think that that's kind of in the back of their minds. And apropos to something you said initially, I think you're right. I don't think Netanyahu wants the world to see Israel as a vassal of the United States. And I think as long as he sticks to his pre-stated, pre-war objectives of killing every last remaining hostage, and Trump, who I think Trump is motivated primarily by his need for a Nobel Peace Prize, that's just oil and water. They don't go together.
He's not going to get a peace prize while he's bombing boats off of Venezuela.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I know. That's insane to me. 100 people they've killed already.
I know.
And there's no proof at all that they were drug dealers or carriers or anything.
Right.
Ben, you want to weigh in?
Well, thank you. I think I've made my point before, but as long as the indoctrination of whether it's Palestinian or Hamas, the kids that are growing up in these, in these Muslim homes, and they're indoctrinated with a hatred of Jews, a hatred of Israel. Israel must, be pushed into the sea, the anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. And as long as that fervor continues, and I think it is continuing in full force today as it was, I mean, I'm 66 years old. It's as old as I can remember. It just won't change. And that sounds rather hopeless. And I'm not a hopeless person, but until you can break that paradigm, and maybe yes, some investment, some real estate, some jobs, maybe build a university. I keep hearing the rebuilding of Gaza is falling on Israel. Well, where are these rich Arab countries to spend $1 billion on building stuff? So, what seems like common sense to me, I just don't hear in the discussion. So I'm likely way off, but that's just how I view it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if you were a Gazan and you were bombed to smithereens and had to move 46 times in 10 minutes, would you love the Israelis? Would you not grow up with increased hatred and increased desire for revenge?
Well, certainly that's a fact, but where do you go? Where do you go today? Where do you go tomorrow? And that 16-year-old who is going to be 18 in 2 years. Well, here's a good paying construction job that you can get here in Gaza and provide, build a future, provide a family. I know this is a little esoteric, but to have something to go to other than a future of poverty and a future of hate, it just would seem to me that I don't know if it's the almighty dollar or the almighty greed or capitalism, that could be a factor to change behavior.
I think that's a pipe dream. I think people who hate continue to hate.
So then this will never change.
I don't think so. I'm not normally pessimistic, but what's going on a whole bunch of places, but what's going on now, yeah, I'm pessimistic that it's ever.
But if you look historically, and I know you can't always compare, but I think many of you know that I teach and I'm a student of the Holocaust, and you look at the hatred that was in Germany against the Jews, or even the other countries that were in World War II. Okay, the war ended, and there was investment in rebuilding, and these countries certainly have pivoted and changed. I mean, Japan, Germany, what have you, seems to be different than it was. I know 1940 is a long time ago, or 1938 or 1935, but still, it does seem to be a difference of opinion. So, can people change?
I hope so, but I
Over
doubt it.
generations. But if we continue the status quo, something has to change. And if we just say, well, we're going to hate each other, nothing's going to change. Certainly, and I'm sorry I'm hogging so much time.
That's okay.
No.
Certainly, one might think that Israel, in the greatest sense of the word, wants peace. I mean, do they want there to be living in fear and having to have the standing army and to be fighting all the time? Probably not. So they would certainly be on board with something towards peace in the biggest sense.
The people of Israel may want peace, but Netanyahu doesn't. And their government doesn't, and their right-wing government doesn't. They want to continue the way it goes so they can keep control.
Ben, apropos of your reference to World War II, I know that in the final months of World War II, when the Allies had the opportunity to bomb the railroad tracks that led to Auschwitz and Birkenau, they decided not to because they knew they were going to have to reconstruct Germany and Poland, and they needed to maintain some of the infrastructure. So I think that's a big difference between now, unless Witkoff and Kushner are already plotting how they're going to develop
They are, I'm sure.
of Gaza. I don't know, but I know that's a difference. Brad, you want to weigh in? Anything? Any thoughts? No? Is that a no? Yeah, yes,
That's a no.
that's a no.
It looks like a no.
That's a no.
Okay. Helen, you want to join? Anything on your mind?
We lost her.
You're muted, just in case you want to chime in. No? Okay. Okay. Let's see. I was also been struck by one final point on Israel before we can move on. The talk of who governs if this nonsense ever stops. And I've read everything about Israeli people, a U.S.-led contingent, or an international peacekeeping force of a lot of countries. And I think there is some interest in that, to get a lot of other countries to have skin in the game and serve as peacekeepers. But I actually don't know if any of that could work, and I think it's a long way off anyway. So I guess there's no point in talking about that anymore. I wanted to bring up a subject we've never really talked about, and I've read so much about it in the last week or two, and that's this march toward AI supremacy.
Yeah.
And there's so many pieces to this. And I know we're in competition with China and other countries for AI supremacy. But I don't know how to think about this in terms of how it all ultimately benefits the United States. I don't know if any of you have used any of the functions that are available to the public, and I look at it frequently, but for kind of just mundane issues. I don't expect. I haven't plugged in something like write me 500 words on this or that. Mostly it's what's the nearest tube stop to the hotel I'm staying in London, which is, I could probably figure that out, but why should I if AI can do it? But I am struck by this effort to build these giant AI complexes in cities, that some of which are complaining about their electricity supply has been depleted because these things require so much energy. And then the whole notion of how this affects employment. And I'm wondering if any of you, or your family, or grandkids, or friends know of anybody who has been laid off or out of work because AI has kind of replaced what they do. I mean, that's one of the concerns I have as well. And there were some stories today that I read that talked about how many thousands of people either have been or contemplated to be laid off because their jobs will just become redundant and unnecessary. So that's my introductory to AI, aside from wondering if it's ever going to be just too smart for humanity. But have any of you, if you've had experience with it, I'd like to know whether you like it or don't like it, or what you think.
My only experience is that a friend of mine who's a teacher said that she used it for one of her lesson plans, and she said it was done in like 20 minutes, something that would have taken her hours to do on her own.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the numbers are right, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
It was very and fast and thorough and accurate. It would have taken her hours to complete.
Maybe you don't know this, but does she feel like this is going to impact her job or jobs of her colleagues or anything?
Yeah, no, we never got
Didn't
that
get
far
that
into
far.
discussion. My only experience is I just think it's annoying.
That
I
what?
never really annoying. I'm just never tried to use it, but it always shows up in my email. Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And I said, no, I don't want you to do anything. You know, get out of my life.
I have to say that for somebody like me who's not an expert on it by any stretch, it is helpful in just answering questions that would otherwise take quite a bit of time to Google around to try to find a website that will give you credible information.
And if it's what's running the answering services at
Yeah.
places you call, it's really annoying.
Well, I find the phone trees the most annoying thing of
Yeah.
all.
That's what I'm saying. If that's AI that's running it, it's just
Yeah.
terrible.
That's very, very annoying. Ben, you had your hand up when I asked if anybody has used it.
Well, again, I just feel I've got a lot to say on the subject. As a former, maybe a once, can always be a computer scientist, I use it all the time.
Oh, you do?
And now I'm retired, so I don't really do anything important, but I use it all the time. Everything from when I give a speech, it helps me write speeches. Um, I've taken, like just the other day, just for example, I got a list of maybe 50 names, first name, last name, email, and phone number. And I said, I want to add this to my Google contacts. So instead of typing each one in and copying and pasting, I said, I'd asked AI, ChatGPT, put this into my Google contacts. It made a file that I imported it. So what was multiple steps, I did in 2 steps.
Where did the names come from? Were they in
These
your?
were pals of mine. Somebody had created just a Word doc with the
With all the
names.
names?
Names, first name, last, a flat Word doc that it was email, but flat that I wanted to bring into my Google contacts. So I was able to do it in a snap
So
with
AI could go into your computer to
so
find that.
AI took the names, formatted them correctly, that then I went into Google Contacts and I said, import this file, and it was in the correct format that Google could read very easily. And the first time they were all in there, just as I wanted them to be.
Wow.
Um, I said so I use it all the time. I use it much less now than I ever used Google, and I was a big, again on the computer all the time. So it's here. In terms of knowing people that have been impacted, I have a very dear friend who is a senior executive at Amazon, senior executive. She just got laid off yesterday.
Wow.
And I think you may have read Amazon laid off about 1,400 or 14,000 people, whatever the number was. When they said AI was one of the, I'm sorry,
28,000.
28,000. Okay. Um, she was one of them. So she was one, and they said because of AI, as a senior executive. Um, so and I think many of you know my wife is an executive in the entertainment industry also, and they're talking. I mean, I don't want to talk out of turn, but AI is going to have a big impact on the entertainment business. So it's here. I think we have to learn how to live with it and use it to make things better. Just as in 1980, the PC was this foreign object that we had. I remember when one of my first jobs, we had a couple of them in the office that were in special rooms that people went to and used once in a while. Now, how many do I have in the house? We've got multiple in multiple rooms. So it's just at its infancy also. I think it's going to exponentially change and improve. Um, you know, as a sci-fi fan, Skynet, the Terminators, AI, that cloud that took over everything, want to avoid that. But it's going to replace medical doctors because AI can read a image, X-ray, whatever imaging, MRIs, better than a human can, and interpret it better. That's today. Now, that has been FDA approved, not in all instances, but some have. So it's not going away.
Brad, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I use a product called Perplexity,
That's
and
what I use.
it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
And I love the fact that I can do a follow-up type
right.
of question to it. So you really feel like you're engaged in a conversation when you use it. I was speaking with somebody yesterday, CFO of a company, and she was saying that she's noticed since the use of these tools that there's a decline um, in the thinking power of people that work for her. I guess they're just relying on what they see in these tools rather than really doing going through a thoughtful process because some of the information is not correct and it's not always reliable. So that is a scary side of it, that of people's ability to think is going to be impacted by this.
Yeah, and one thing the reason I use Perplexity as well, and the thing, and I haven't used some of the others like Chat GPT. I for no other reason that Perplexity is good enough for whatever I need. But whatever facts it spits out, it gives you a citation. So you have a little more confidence in the information it's presenting to you. Um, yeah, that's really why I like it so much. I think the biggest impact, kind of medium term anyway, is kids graduating college. They haven't, they don't have the experience or knowledge to move into a higher paying job somewhere, maybe on Wall Street, but in other industries. I think the bar for them to get their foot in the door is going to be much, much higher. And I think that's going to create all kinds of social problems. I mean, already young people can't buy a house. Uh, New cars are probably out of the picture. Um, all these things that kind of we grew up with expectations of living a middle class or better life, I don't think are available. Even rents. I mean, we have in my neighborhood, we have like one, two, I can think of three new big apartment complexes that have been built. And my wife was saying, do you know how much a one bedroom costs in these places? And she said like $3,000 a month. And I'm thinking, wow, these kids coming out of college, can they even afford that, a one bedroom apartment for 3,000? I don't know, but I just think it's going to be much, much harder for them to get jobs. Um, um, and then the other thing is, are they ultimately going to be too smart for the rest of us, which is always a possibility. Um, let's see, what else can we talk about? Um, I've been fascinated by the kind of the final stages of the mayor's race in New York, but not for the narrow focus on Mamdani versus Cuomo and who do you like better and who's good for Jews, who isn't. I was more interested in how Mamdani represents a path forward for Democrats in a very, very progressive manner um, in New York, which I guess, is a decent fit, versus Mikey Sherrill, who's running for governor in New Jersey, who is leading, but she's much more of a centrist. And I think this is kind of a picture of the real challenge facing Democrats going forward for next year is, which way do you go? I mean, do you just promise people free everything? Or do you take a more pragmatic approach and say, look, we can only do so much. We have to talk to the other side. I don't get the feeling Mamdani will or has to have much of a conversation with people whose views are anything outside of the progressive Democratic way of doing things. And I don't, frankly, I think this is going to be a problem for Democrats all the way up to the midterms next year, assuming we have midterms next year. Any thoughts about that? Anything? Or maybe I should ask it this way: does anybody have any strong feelings about which way they'd like to see the Democratic Party go? Which makes more sense? Go ahead.
What Herb's chewing. I think the progressives of the Democratic Party, the AOCs and all, and as the lifelong Democrat, they've like ruined the party. From DEI to the takeover and the influence that the Arab countries have had on that faction of the Democratic Party, it just gets harder and harder for for some of us Democrats to get behind it. But then you look at the flip side, the MAGA, that that's sickening too. So
There seem to be some cracks in the MAGA base based on the possibility that their healthcare costs are going to skyrocket, that people are going to lose Medicaid benefits and subsidies for food.
and their jobs. I mean, he's going to fire everybody in the federal government. So you're going to have mass unemployment. You're going to have continued inflation, and you're going to have unrest essentially on the streets because people aren't going to have food. And then Trump will use that as an excuse to have further militarization of our cities and martial law declared over, and then that'll be it for the democracy.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable way to look at this. But I have noticed a few, like there's a few Republicans in Congress who are willing to talk to Democrats to kind of get the government back up and running again.
Then they get termed out. They're not termed out. They get primaried out.
They get
and then they're dead.
They're going to get primaried out anyway if they don't do anything about what's going on.
Yeah. It is I tell you, it is so remarkable how Trump has this sway over the world.
How about the gerrymandering he's orchestrating right now, countrywide?
But I was just watching before we started today. I was watching on CNN, and they did this kind of review of his trip to Asia and how all the leaders of all these other countries give him these crazy gifts. Everybody genuflects to this guy. Everybody is terrified of this guy. The only two people who aren't are Xi and Putin. And I don't think he's going to get any gold-plated gifts from them. But all these other smaller countries, well, maybe Venezuela, it's amazing. And I blame this whole thing on Congress, because the Republican-led Congress has completely folded, and the Supreme Court, which gave him carte blanche to do almost anything he wants. And just to put a finer point on this, I read today that Trump's lawyers are challenging the conviction of the 34 felony counts based on the Stormy Daniels cover up and the payments and all that. And they're saying, well, the Supreme Court has ruled that he can be immune from all that, except that the Supreme Court didn't rule on that decision until after the courts decided that he was guilty of those felony counts.
And he wasn't president when he did that.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm just looking in his ability to argue that he's immune from all this stuff.
Yeah,
that came later. So it's just one of those points that, I mean, he's the luckiest guy that whoever lived, I think.
And those gifts that these countries give to the president, they're not his gifts. They're the property of the country, but he takes them anyway. He considers them. He takes them. So it's so upside down from how, we looked at, even the Checkers speech, Nixon, that he got a coat or something.
Was that over like a coat or something?
A coat, that they gave him a free coat or something. I mean, this guy, they're giving billions, airplanes.
How about $400 million 747s?
I said that he wanted to steal $1 billion during his presidency. I think I'm low at this point.
That's a low ball.
I'm low.
It's and then there was a story this week about how Eric Trump is making a fortune on, I don't know, was it crypto or real estate or something?
Crypto.
Donald Jr.
Crypto. Yeah.
Donald Jr.
And Donald Jr. But Eric is running the organization. So everything they do, they stand to make so much money. Throw the money with.
And the guy he just pardoned for his crimes is now backing his crypto business or whatever.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
crypto guy.
it's like, they complain, about Hunter having dealings with Burisma, which, on the
Peanuts.
surface it stinks, whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that stuff goes on. People influence and this that. I mean, I got free tickets to the Dodger game last night because my wife's a big executive. That maybe that stinks too, but it doesn't compare.
You're not making national policy.
It doesn't compare to the
Oh.
billions and billions that these guys are making. It's just weird how we've just nothing registers anymore.
Well, I think that's the intent, isn't it? And we don't talk about the fact that Mike Johnson won't swear in the woman from Arizona who won that seat, who would vote to release the Epstein files. The woman who ghost wrote that book is a great friend of ours, known her for years. And I saw she's been doing the interview circuit. And I caught one and she said, all the names of the predators are known to the Justice Department. They're all known. And it's beyond Prince Andrew, is that his name?
Andrew.
Yeah. It's way beyond him. So they know all these guys. And even though she said, I think she's quoted in the book, or she wrote in the book that Trump always treated her nicely. But what else? I mean, I know Trump, I haven't read the book yet, but I know Trump's got to be all over that whole situation. But again, they have the winds at their back. I mean, he won't swear in what Mrs. Grahava. Am I pronouncing it wrong? Anyway, it's crazy. I mean, everything is meant to make you forget what happened yesterday.
Mhm.
And
It's what happened 10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago. It's really true. Okay. I might have exhausted all my notes here.
But meanwhile, these guys are getting paid, and on Saturday,
Yeah,
people are
that's a
going to go
question I had.
hungry.
I wasn't clear about that. Do Congress people get paid during the
Oh, yeah.
shutdown?
Oh, yeah, they're getting paid.
They are getting paid?
They
Their
haven't
staff
they
is
haven't
not
worked for a
getting paid.
month.
Yeah,
What's
but
that?
their staffs are not getting paid.
Staff isn't getting paid.
My friend is a U.S. attorney, or assistant U.S. attorney, I guess, and she said that they get paid, but it accrues. I don't think they're getting the money now, but they're getting, they're accruing the money, and they'll get a big paycheck when this
Yep.
ends.
Well, I think
guess.
everybody will get back pay, but that doesn't buy them
But
groceries on Saturday.
Except for
But
the
if you're
people they're going to
furloughed
lay off.
or laid off, yeah, that's it.
Trump
And-
has said that he has no intention of giving back pay to any Democrat anywhere in the country.
Just
And
Democrats?
he makes it very, very clear that even if their job still exists after the shutdown, they're not going to get paid because they didn't work. So
it's Democrats' fault.
and because it's the Democrats who made the government shut down. I'm hoping, and I'm probably wrong, that enough people are going to be hurt badly enough by the lack of subsidies on Obamacare, by the lack of food stamps or enough food stamps just to eat, by a whole bunch of other things that are going to happen, that they will get angry enough at the midterms to actually vote in their own best interests, which they have not done in a number of elections.
You know what? I have been saying that exact same thing for months, that the only way the fever breaks is if enough people are hurt, enough Republican voters are hurt to say, I didn't vote for this. This isn't helping my family. I'm not better than I was before. I'm going to vote. I'm voting against somebody else, against these guys. I've been saying that forever. And
Yeah, but they don't. They don't. You hear interviews.
They vote
with
against their
with
best interest all the time. I just
Always.
don't get it.
Always.
Why?
You hear interviews with the soybean farmers and the ranchers, and they say, "Oh, we really don't like what he's doing here, but he's doing a lot of good stuff, and I still support him."
Those immigrants who are working at the car
those
wash,
nasty
they're the
immigrants.
enemy. They're the enemy. Those my
And all the
gardener is
economic
the enemy.
indicators are going down. I mean,
I'm sorry, what's going down?
the economic indicators. I mean, inflation is up. I don't know what, and the interest rates are still too high for any meaningful change in the ability to finance something. And Trump's approval numbers are down, and yet he perseveres. It's kind of it's a Harvard business study case study of how this guy has half the country bamboozled.
Okay, we have a nephew, grew up on Long Island, and he says it doesn't really matter who's on the Republican ticket. He has to vote for a Republican. And we don't talk to him about politics very often, but he knows that Democrats are dangerous. He knows that only Republicans can keep this country running. And it scares me because I don't think he's atypical.
No, I agree. I think that's true.
And it's like, this is the guy who is voting for the party that's ruining our country. And he's going to do it again because of the label on the ballot, not for the candidate, not ever for the candidate.
I think it's very, very difficult to, this is why this notion that we should talk to the other side for the time being is a fool's errand. I mean, we couldn't convince any MAGA person of the wrongness of some of what they think and how they vote, nor could they persuade us. And I think this whole notion of I don't know how we ever get to the Senate again. I think the Senate.
I just asked my neighbor what good thing Trump has done for the country, and she said, "Well, the murderers and the rapists aren't coming across the border anymore." That was her answer. The murderers and the rapists are not coming across the border anymore.
And your
They
neighbor
weren't coming in the first place.
Well, I know
Well, that's
that.
what he
I'm just
said
telling
when he
you
came down
what
the
her
escalator.
response was when I asked her what good he's done for the country.
That's where Trump started down the escalator. I mean, the murders and rapists.
They're sending all their worst people.
Yeah,
But he's arresting the best of them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm generalizing. The guys that are working, trying to make a live, do something. I mean, I'm sure there's some bad ones that came across the border. I mean, that's
Yeah, but I don't think the percentages of crimes committed by those people are any different
they're
than
very low. No, they're
Yeah.
lower because
But-
they want to stay off the radar.
yeah.
But that's not my point. My point is this is what she picks out of all the things that
Yeah.
Trump has done for
Right,
9
right.
months. This is what she picks out as the good thing he's done.
She didn't mention tariffs or
Nothing else.
How about the bankrupting of our
Ooh.
cities? A few weeks ago, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but Santa Monica, this great city of Santa Monica, I read that they're over $400 million in debt. LA City, I'm a volunteer in LA, but it's almost bankrupt. What's going to happen when our cities go bankrupt?
Well, they're democratic cities. It doesn't matter.
To
Brad,
Trump, it doesn't matter.
Brad, you had your hand up.
Well, two things. Santa Monica, that issue relates to a number of cases dealing with sexual harassment in the workplace. And that's and that amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars. But the point that I wanted to make was that who would have thought that the biggest critic within the Republican Party would be Marjorie Taylor Greene?
How about that?
How about that?
Yeah.
Who's actually speaking sense about the healthcare crisis?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk? So maybe there is some hope if somebody crazy as her can see some sense in the other side.
Yeah, that is kind of shocking every time you read a story and you say, but some Republicans think otherwise, and then they quote Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is kind of remarkable.
Well, I just think somebody should lock them in a room and not let them out until they
They
come
used
to
to
a
do
until
stuff
they.
like that.
I'm sorry.
They used to
Yeah.
do stuff like that.
I know they did. Well, they should do it again because
Well, they
pointing
can't-
fingers gets nowhere and is total waste of time. And they need to do their jobs. That's all.
Yeah, that's
They
really
haven't
true.
done their jobs in years and years and years.
Well, that's true, but they need to do it this month.
But don't you think there's been so many distractions, and not to pick on one group, but this trans thing, and I don't really get it, and I'm trying to be open-minded, but I don't get it. Maybe it's because I'm old or whatever. But it's such a big issue for the country, it seems, and it's like, what? I never even heard of it until a few years ago.
The thing is, why should it be an issue when it has nothing to do with anybody except the people who are personally affected by it? And why shouldn't people be able to live however they want to live, without Agent Orange telling them who they are and what they can do and how they can do it? We have a great nephew who is weird, to put it politely, who has a girlfriend, boyfriend, it friend in England of all places.
Not on the internet.
He met her playing internet games. I don't understand her. Okay, she presents female, she thinks she's male, but she actually thinks she's nothing in between. What difference does it make? He likes her, she likes him. She, because she looks like a she. I don't care. What has it got to do with me and my life? Just because I don't understand it, but a lot of things in this world I don't understand, including how electricity is made. So what difference does it make, and why is it anyone in Washington's business?
It's not.
They fear the other.
Well, abortion, why is it anybody's business,
Because Christianity says it's a sin, and obviously we are a Christian country, then we should be governed by the Christian faith.
But not just a
Well,
sin.
they don't say abortion is in this sacred.
Steve, where have you been?
Oh, I was involved in something and lost track of time and had to finish up what I was doing.
Okay. You get a pass.
It's Medicare enrollment time. What can I say?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I was getting forms off to my broker and meant to interrupt and just got involved in finishing it up.
So one thing about the abortion issue, it's based on the fact that life begins at conception is what the argument is, but Judaism doesn't believe life begins at conception. So there should be an argument that it's anti-religious. And nobody seems to make that. And Muslims don't believe it either. But nobody seems to make that argument.
Made in the various lawsuits, that argument has been made.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
That argument has been made in the lawsuits, and even more so in the ones about the morning after pill, which is
but where are they? The lawsuits
all over the country.
Yeah,
I mean, but
nothing's decided.
where in the stage of being litigated or with an opinion coming out?
I don't know from state to state. I can't answer that. And that's a very tough argument. As for this, gay people, whatever, I don't know why, but people are afraid. They think that if their children meet a gay person, their children will say, "I want to be gay." There was that ridiculous commercial where a young child in elementary school, in class, they read a book about a princess marrying a princess, and she came home and told her mother she wanted to marry a princess. And people are just afraid. And in some ways, I don't blame them for being afraid, but they have to recognize that they don't get to dictate everybody's rights, and it's up to them to find a way to protect themselves. But they feel like, Mona likes to say that the rest of the country sees the TV show Euphoria and thinks that's a typical LA high school, and doesn't really realize that California parents are equally appalled at the behavior of these teenagers. And the question is, and it's just their notion of rights is they get to tell you what to do, and Project 2025 is riddled with it.
Yeah. It's also, there's a biblical component too that they rest on. And I think, when is life life? I don't think anybody will ever come up with a definitive answer. There's no definitive answer. I mean,
well, it's not when is life. That's the problem. That's the wrong question. Because I do think there's an argument that a fetus is life. The question is, when is it a human being,
That's what I meant. I misspoke. That's what I meant.
human being subject to protection as an individual person?
Right. That's right. We believe that it's not until the baby is actually born, right? Isn't that what the Jewish belief?
Actually, more than born, it's a certain number of days.
I think it's like 30 days.
No, I think it's like 8, like bris time.
Oh, okay.
After, in which before that, you're not even given a regular funeral.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. Steve, since you got here late, anything on your mind from the last week or two that's pissing you off?
Oh, everything, everything. It's the usual, and you know, I here's the shutdown is sort of troubling. I am glad the Democrats are hanging in there. To me, under any logical analysis, there is no way you can blame the Democrats. I mean, you can't say the Republicans have a majority, it's their fault. That's wrong. We need both parties. Each party has a proposal that the other rejected. How do you resolve that? You negotiate a compromise. Well, one side has said we will negotiate, the other has said we will not. Okay, where's the blame on why we're not ending the shutdown?
No, I think a lot of people feel that way. We have a few minutes left. I want to ask you guys, has anybody seen Dynamite in the House?
Yes.
I thought it was fabulous as a cautionary tale. Do the rest of you, do you know what it's about?
We were disappointed.
You
We
were?
watched it last night, but we found the ending strange.
Yeah, that too.
You know what? I didn't. I thought the end, well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it and wants to, but I thought the ending was inevitable. That
Okay.
what was going to happen was going to happen, or it was about to happen.
Is that what, a Netflix show?
Is it on Netflix? I think
It's
it is
on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it is on Netflix.
But I mean, I find like On the Beach, I thought was so much better, or
Yeah.
the one with the movie with Tia Leone,
Seen on the beach.
an old one. There were a number of.
But Doctor Strangelove sort of ended.
Oh, I love Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, it's a great
awesome movie.
But that had an ambiguous ending. All I remember is Slim Pickens.
No, it didn't.
Didn't Slim Pickens riding the bomb down?
Yeah, nothing ambiguous about it.
But it didn't show any explosion or anything. I recommend all of you to watch it and think about it as a sort of it makes you think about what the people who are in charge now, how they would have responded. And
that's the scary part.
That's the scary part. That's the scary part. That's the really. But I thought it was really well acted, and it was an interesting presentation how they looked at the problem from different perspectives.
I was very troubled though by part of the premise. I mean, I thought that if you're starting out with no knowledge of where
it came from,
there was a serious problem.
Right. And of course, the Pentagon has responded by saying, "Well, we'll be much better than that. We have more ability." Anyway, okay, we're almost done. Anybody have any closing thoughts? I have to finish packing.
Have a great trip.
Have a great trip. Yeah.
Where are you going?
We're flying tomorrow. We're doing northern Italy. Then we're going to Paris for a couple of days because there's an art show we want to see with one of our favorite artists. And then we're taking the Eurostar to London, where my wife has a conference, and we're going to spend some time with some friends there. So it's a lot.
I thought your wife was retired.
Yeah, well, we're both retired. So we can do, no, she belongs to this group that it's called the British American Project.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's like really smart people from both countries, and they meet every year for a conference and alternate which country. And I always kind of tag along and sneak in the back of the room if I can, or go find something else to do. But that was the genesis of the trip, and then we built it out from there. But I'm tired already.
Well, have a great trip.
Thank you. And in 2 weeks, I will be in London, but it's only 7 hours difference. So we'll do the call as usual at noon in 2 weeks. And I might need some help on what's going on here because I won't have access to, well, I'll look on the web and see what's going on, and we'll try to keep up with everything.
It's not like the old days where you had to get the International Herald Tribune
Right.
to be 3-week-old news.
2 pages, yeah, 2 pages.
It was very
Have a great trip.
Thank you.
During the baseball season, it was ridiculous. You couldn't get a score that was less than a week old.
But you can't
What
get
was
that
it, like
here
2
now.
pages or 4 pages? The whole
Can't get-
newspaper.
I mean, I opened the New York Times and they're all the baseball stories about 2 games ago. By the way,
That's not the way to
Can
you
I,
can't follow sports in a newspaper anymore.
yeah.
Can I mention something on a different topic real quickly?
Sure.
And that is, I listened to, I'm a Francophile, and I listened to an interview with a writer and journalist and TV commentator in France who is Jewish, had never advertised his Judaism, but with the events in Gaza, called at the same time as for a cessation of hostilities, called for the return of the hostages. And he became the target of an incredible amount of hate mail and wrote a book about this. And his first name is Arthur. I can't remember the last name. And the title has the word Bedouin in it. Again, I don't remember the name. But if you put those words, French journalist, Arthur Bedouin, you'll find him. And it was an amazing story and very, very eye-opening to him about the state of anti-Semitism in France today. So
Well, I'm
very,
not going to wear a kippah, that's for sure.
very
Well,
troubling.
That's a response to Ben saying, "Oh no, anti-Semitism after World War II has gone away."
I never said that.
No.
Now,
It's
show me
on
that's
ground.
insulting. That's for you to put words in my mouth that I said that. I never said that.
You said that they pivoted and it wasn't there anymore.
I said they pivoted in a financial sense and have had success as a country more westernized. So I'm adding some more words, but I never said that anti-Semitism goes away. And I'm a student and a professor of Holocaust studies at UCLA, and I resent that you would even say that I said anti-Semitism has gone down, because the fact is it's gone up. And that's, I really think you owe me an apology for saying that. And that's something that I said.
I'm sorry if I misheard, but that's what I thought I heard.
Okay, well, let's all depart as friends, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
But anyway, I do recommend that you listen to this interview, which can be found on the web. And it was really eye-opening for me. So
Okay, I'll check it out.
Who knows what's coming?
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Have a good fortnight as we
Have a
say.
great trip.
Okay,
Come
Take
back
care.
safe.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.